Warren Davidson is a Republican congressman from Ohio and a former Army Ranger. Welcome. Great to have you with us live tonight.
Thanks to be here.
All right, so what do we do on the Hill? I want to read you something that Axios said today. They said the confusion and lack of a clear direction on the Hill mirrors the White House. President Trump has been all over the place since the Parkland shooting, and congressional Republicans are either not taking him seriously or unwilling to embrace many of the gun control policies he's floated. It seems like the Senate and House, too, have very different ways of going at this.
Well, the bills that the Senate are taking up are a little different than the House. That's not abnormal. That's common. And the president has floated a number of ideas, but he's not said that every single idea that he's talked about is something that should become federal law. So, for example, arming teachers. Should there be one federal approach to how teachers are armed, or whether they are or not? You know, in the state of Ohio, school districts are allowed to do that. The county I grew up in, Sheriff Linhart there, has weapons in schools. Teachers don't carry them. They're in biometric vaults. They have body armor, and they're trained. They train regularly, hopefully, to be the good guy with a gun that responds correctly. Well, but not every district does. Frankly, not the majority in Ohio do. Yeah,
and Speaker Ryan said today he does think that that issue specifically is one that local and state officials need to make decisions about whether they want that in their schools. And he seemed to talk about that there are a lot of other issues that have to be discussed just besides going after guns, and saying today that you shouldn't go after people who are law-abiding citizens. He wants to make sure that people who never should get guns, that there are tougher strongholds to make sure they don't. So what measures do you see that could pass the House, pass the Senate, and get to the president for a signature? What if anything, could be done?
Well, you know, we watched the clip earlier talking about the father who lost his daughter. And really, when you think about the tragedy that's here, you really want to look at what is going to make our schools safe, what's going to make our students safe. And so some of the ideas that have been floated are reactionary, and they're focused on rifles, or a particular type of rifle, for example. And if you think about rifles, you're more likely, actually, 20 times more likely to be killed by a handgun than by a rifle. 6 times more likely to be killed in hand-to-hand combat. And this is all rifles. So if you look at ARs, they're a subset of rifles. And you think about the debate on age, handguns, they're required for federal firearms licensees to sell a handgun. You have to be 21. Well, you're 20 times more likely to be killed by a handgun. Making 21 the age limit hasn't decreased fatalities by handguns. So you really want to make sure that you take the time to solve the problem the right way. And what has already passed the House were some fixes to reciprocity, which some of the most law-abiding gun owners in America are concealed carry permit holders, and they comply with laws. That's a different fix. That's not going to necessarily make schools safer. But Fix NICS passed as part of that in the House bill. The House has said we won't take up the Cornyn bill without doing that fix. But, you know, just recently in the Senate, there's a bill that we're looking over tonight in our office that is a Fix NICS that deals with due process, that doesn't just leave federal agencies to do this with no way to address it. It actually provides for, if a state court, a federal court, or a military court has provided due process, then there's a remedy. And then at the local level, you have things like in Florida where this Parkland shooting, I think everyone is wondering, how in the world couldn't we have stopped this one? This seems to be one of the most preventable crimes that we've seen as far as shooters go. And surely these red flags could have tripped something that would stop him from legally purchasing a firearm.
Yeah, and it sounds like the governor down there rolling out his plan today, which we'll talk more about, that he is looking at all those other prongs and the safety nets that didn't work and how this fell through the system. Congressman, thank you for coming in tonight. We'll watch this on the Hill. A lot of folks doubting anything gets done, but we know that there are things that work on both sides, so we'll see.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. All right, Florida Governor Rick Scott rolling out his $500 million school safety plan today, including beefing up law enforcement presence and many other practical precautions at schools.
We've got to